You're rocking with the best thoughts of the week. Let's get it.
Do you know what you're listening to? You're listening to Thoughts of the Week.
Oh, how's that?
All right, so since I didn't have it planned to do Noah Parden, I'm going to show you a picture from the book. This is him right here. All right, this is his picture right here. That's Noah Parden. He was in real quick. He was involved in trying to prolong Ed Johnson from being lynched and prosecuted after Ed Johnson was accused of raping a white woman named Nevada Taylor. And unfortunately, although there was no evidence, there was a white mob who didn't like the fact that Noah Parden, here in this book here, Noah Parden and Styles L. Hutchins went to the Supreme Court to try to get an appeal. So the white people didn't like the fact that those two lawyers went to the Supreme Court to try to appeal for Ed Johnson. So what they did, the white mob, they went on and snatched Ed Johnson out of the jail cell. And there was a sheriff there. Let me get the sheriff's name again. Who this sheriff ended up getting prosecuted, if I'm not mistaken. Sheriff Joseph F. Shipp was accused of conspiring with the mob to kill Ed Johnson because he didn't bother to try to get the white mob away, or supposedly he had knowledge. It was said he had knowledge that he was informed that they were coming to get Ed Johnson, and so he didn't do nothing about it. And I think he was end up getting prosecuted for that. All right, so we're gonna go into Noah Parden, and I'm gonna read that, and then we're gonna get up out of here, man. So Noah Parden. Again, let me put the picture up because, like I said, I wasn't planning on doing anything on Noah Parden, but since he was connected to Styles Hutchins and Ed Johnson, we're going to add him in there. All right, so that's his picture right there. All right, so Noah Parden, the first African-American lawyer to argue and win a stay of execution from the Supreme Court. There you go. Mm-hmm. Noah Walter Parden was born in Floyd County, Georgia in 1865. By age 7, both his parents were dead, and he was found abandoned on the doorstep of a Georgia orphanage. Parden came to Chattanooga in 1804. Parden came to Chattanooga in 1884 and entered Howard High School in 1885. As a teenager and young adult, he worked days in a tobacco field and nights in a factory to save money for law school. He graduated from Howard High School after 5 years of hard work, and in late 1890, he entered Central Tennessee College of Nashville's law department. All right. Let me see here. Excuse me. Law department. Parden graduated law school at the head of his class and then returned to Chattanooga to set up practice. He was admitted to practice law in all courts in Tennessee and the state Supreme Court in 1894. He was admitted to practice in the United States Supreme Court in 1895. Chattanooga's legal and civilian community referred to Noah Parden as a troublemaker and community agitator. Because he fought vigorously for his clients. So because he wanted to fight for the clients he was representing, he was labeled a troublemaker because he wanted to stand up for his clients, and an agitator. All right, a community agitator. He was notoriously passionate. He was a notoriously passionate man and cried with the families when his clients were sentenced to prison. And he even cited complete chapters from Psalms and Proverbs, or used parables from the New Testament to argue his point to the juries. Parden believed strongly in God and often kneeled in the back of the courtroom and prayed with his clients. He took on giants like insurance companies that sold policies to African Americans, then routinely denied their claims because they believed African Americans were too poor to sue them. Parden usually won his cases, appealing to the white jurors to ask themselves the vital question that if the companies were allowed to defraud African Americans, who could be next on the list except white people? For all of this devotion to his clients, Parden often received only a cooked meal for his payment. This was because most African Americans of that day were too poor to pay for representation, and those whites who were wealthy enough to pay would never go to an African American for representation in the first place. So Parden's practice was limited to those of his own race, most of whom just didn't earn enough money, if they worked at all, to pay him what he deserved. All right. Parden rectified this dilemma by becoming one of the earliest lawyers on record to use the contingency method of collecting fees for representation. He would take on a case against such culprits as the large insurance companies mentioned earlier, free of charge. If he won the case, which he usually did, he was entitled to a predetermined percentage of the award, which he collected before the client ever received the money. If he lost the case, the client could then go ahead and serve him the hot home cooked meal at their family's dinner table as payment. Parden would go on to represent Ed Johnson, who I mentioned earlier, a young African American male accused of raping a white woman in 1906. When Johnson was convicted of the crime and sentenced to die, Parden became part of a team of lawyers who filed an appeal with the United States Supreme Court for a stay of execution until the facts could be investigated. Parden himself argued for the stay of execution. This act in itself was an historic event. This act in itself was an historic event. Because before that time, no other African American had ever been allowed to argue anything before the Supreme Court justices. Parden's argument was most effective, and Justice Harlan agreed to the stay. So Parden was able to get that stay for Ed Johnson. He even designated Parden lead counsel, another historic event, since no African American had ever been considered a lead counsel before that time. Unfortunately, when the citizens of Chattanooga heard about the stay, a mob formed and took matters into their own hands. They hanged Johnson on the Walnut Street Bridge, and I'm going to pull that Walnut Street Bridge up again. All right, this is the Walnut Street Bridge, is still operating today. All right. Let me get back here, find my spot. Excuse me, folks. Unfortunately, when the citizens of Chattanooga heard about the stay, a mob formed and took matters into their own hands. They hanged Johnson on the Walnut Street Bridge, the bridge you guys are watching on the screen right now, before Parden could argue the case. Neither Noah Walter Parden nor Styles Linton Hutchins ever returned to Chattanooga, Tennessee after the lynching. Parden had been in Washington, D.C. arguing the case, and Hutchins had been out of the city when the lynching occurred. Both attorneys received word of the lynching and were told of the violent rumors circulating that they themselves would be lynched the moment they showed their faces in the city. Both Parden and Hutchins moved their families to Oklahoma. Despite the outcome of the Ed Johnson case, Noah Parden's law career was an outstanding one. It is documented that he won scores of lawsuits. A white lawyer from Chattanooga once told a local newspaper, even though he, Noah Parden, is black and they're white, Noah Parden develops a bond with a jury faster than any lawyer I have ever seen. He makes jurors like him and trust him, and in return, they like and trust his clients. All right. Unfortunately, there is not yet a historical marker in the city of Chattanooga that honors the life, contributions, and memories of attorney Noah Walter Parden. You see here in this picture. All right. So far, there's no marker to display his contributions. All right. And to honor his life and contributions and memory of an attorney. So there you have it, man. That's I did 4. I was only doing 3, but I seen that Noah Parden was also in here, so I definitely wanted to do that as well. And all of this came from, again, the book. Here's the book right here, African Americans of Chattanooga: A History of Unsung Heroes by Rita Lorraine Hubbard. So you guys be looking out for that. Actually, you guys can go to the website. The website, historypress.net. Historypress.net. And then that website will actually change names. All right. So don't get alarmed if you type in that address and it changes names. All right. So let me type that in real quick. Historypress.net. When you type that web address in, it'll turn into arcadiapublishing.com. All right, arcadiapublishing.com. And I'm going to pull that site up on the page so you guys can see it. Okay. So this is what the site looks like. When you type in, I think it's that historypress.net. Yeah, when you type in historypress.net, this website will pull up. Okay. And then what you need to do is just click on books. And then on the side, you will see African American. You click in that box, and then those books will come up. And so what will happen there is you need to scroll down. I found it on number 3 because they got numbers on the bottom. And there it is right there. Okay. So you guys get that book, purchase it, and get some Black history out of Chattanooga, Tennessee. All right.